Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Sheila Rai, Professor of Law in National Law University, Odisha. I would be discussing with you module on illegal foreign trade. I hope you are aware with the term trade and foreign trade. It is an important part of the economy of country, and regulation of economy is part of the sovereign power of the state. Trade being an important part of the economy of country, state has an interest to regulate it. In the globalized era of economic interdependence, complete autarky is almost impossible. Majority of the countries of the world, including India, are therefore members of World Trade Organization. Increasing interdependence and bringing about coexistence through liberalization of trade and commerce was the primary objective of the Bretton Woods institutions. For this purpose, WTO agreements to some extent constrain the regulatory power of the state so that it does not interfere in freedom of trade. Liberalization of trade does not mean that complete absence of regulation by the state or the trade should be completely deregulated. State regulates trade for various reasons. These can be maintenance of equilibrium in the economy of the country, regulation of quality of products marketed in the importing country, ensuring that contraband goods do not enter the territory of the importing country, security of the state, and number of other reasons. For all these reasons, countries regulate what can be imported and exported, how much can be imported and exported, how imports and exports have to be conducted, and what is the entry and exit tax which the state would charge as customs duty. Trade done in contravention of these state regulations are illegal trade. Illegal trade may endanger the economy of the state, security of the state, and may harm the health and well-being of the customers in the importing country. Now, what is an illegal trade? Trade in simple terms means buying and selling. When this buying and selling is across the borders of the country, it becomes international trade. Countries within the limits of their international obligations regulate international trade. It is part of the sovereign power of the countries, as I said earlier. Regulation is necessary for regulation of the economy of the country as well as to ensure that undesirable activities and exchanges do not take place across the borders. Therefore, sovereign nations regulate the process of import and export as well as the content of import and export. This can be said procedural and substantive part of regulation. When any trade takes place in contravention of these regulations, it is called illegal trade. Therefore, illegal trade in simple terms means trade in contravention of the existing law. The Customs Act 1962 of India defines three terms: smuggling, illegal import, and illegal export. Smuggling has been defined in Section 2, Clause 39 of the Customs Act of 1962. It says, smuggling in relation to any goods means act or omission which will render such goods liable to confiscation under Section 111 or Section 113 of the Customs Act. Section 11A subclause A defines illegal import. It says illegal import means the import of any goods in contravention of the provisions of this Act or any other law for the time being in force. Section 11H clause A defines illegal export. It states illegal export means the export of any goods in contravention of the provisions of the Customs Act or any other law for the time being in force. Import has been defined as bringing into India from a place outside India. Import is complete when the goods cross the customs barrier. Export has been defined as taking out of India to a place outside India. Export is complete when the goods cross the territorial waters of India. Now, what is the procedure of import and export? Customs Act provides procedure for import and export. Import and export, first of all, can take place only through specified ports and airports. The requirement is person in charge of the vessel, aircraft or vehicle, as the case may be, has to deliver import manifest or import report to the proper officer. Imported goods can be unloaded only after entry inward is given to the proper officer under the supervision of the customs officer. Only goods mentioned in the import manifest or import report, as the case may be, can be unloaded. Importer files bill of entry for home consumption and pays the requisite duty, and then the goods are cleared for the market. In case importer does not want to clear the goods for the market, it may like to put the goods in the warehouse. In this case, bill of entry is filed when the goods are cleared for home consumption from the warehouse. Now, this is the procedure for imports. Now, what is the procedure for exports? Procedure for export is exactly the reverse of the procedure for import. Bill of export is filed by the exporter and any duty, if applicable, is paid on the goods. Goods are loaded when the entry outward is given by the proper officer. The person in charge of the vessel or vehicle or aircraft, as the case may be, files export manifest or export report, and the goods are then cleared for export. Sometimes government is suspicious that certain ports or airports are being used for illegal import and export of particular goods in high quantity. In such cases, Chapter 4A and 4B provides procedure for detection of illegally imported and exported goods. These are known as notified and specified goods. These goods which are being illegally imported or exported in high quantity. The central government may in official gazette specify goods in order to take special measures for the purpose of checking the illegal import, circulation or disposal of such goods, or facilitating the detection of such goods. These are known as notified goods. In case of illegal imports, person in possession of notified goods after notification in the official gazette have to disclose the quantity and place of the possession of such goods to the proper officer. Transfer of such goods from one person to another and from one place to another also needs to be disclosed to the proper officer and accompanied by transfer voucher. Acquisition of notified goods after notified date also needs to be disclosed by concerned persons to proper officer, detailing the mode of acquisition, the quantities so acquired, place where the goods are kept, and the purpose for which they have been acquired. Similarly, having regard to illegal exports, goods of any class or description, the central government may take special measures for checking illegal export or facilitating the detection of goods which are likely to be illegally exported. To detect illegal exports, the central government specifies both goods under scrutiny as well as the area where special check is maintained. Specified area includes the Indian customs water and such inland area not exceeding 100 kilometers in width from any coast or border of India, as the central government may, having regard to the vulnerability of area or to smuggling, by notification in the official gazette specify in this regard. If persons in specified area owns specified goods, the value of which is more than rupees 15,000, it has to be notified to the proper officer. Persons acquiring, transferring specified goods in specified area have to notify it to the proper officer, disclosing the quantity, price and purpose of such transfer or acquisition, and such acquisition and transfer has to be accompanied by voucher. Persons in possession of notified goods and specified goods in specified area have to maintain account of such goods. The difference between notified and specified goods is that notified goods is for import and specified goods is for exports. In case of notified goods, only goods are notified, but in case of specified goods, both the area which is under scrutiny as well as the goods which are under scrutiny, both are specified. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, illegal import and export involves two parts. One is procedural illegality and the other is substantive illegality. Let us first discuss procedural illegality. Procedural illegality for trade can be generally of the following types: misdeclaration of the nature and or quantity of goods in import manifest, or export manifest, export report of bill of entry or bill of export. Another illegality can be misdeclaration about the value of goods imported or exported. Duty is normally charged, that is the value of the goods imported or exported. Importers sometimes under-invoice the goods to save on the payable amount of customs duty. Exports are normally not taxed, but exporters get certain benefits depending on the total value of the exports made or foreign exchange earned. To maximize such benefits, exporters are tempted at times to indulge into over-invoicing the goods. Imports and exports done by violating any other process of import and export, like landing of goods or wrong ports, pilferage of goods being loaded or unloaded at wrong places, or without the supervision of the proper officer, is another type of procedural illegality. Another example is non-payment of duty or short payment of duty. This may happen in many ways, like declaring the goods in wrong tariff line and consequently wrong assessment of duty in the bill of entry, imports done without payment of duty or wrong claim of refund, or duty under various export promotion schemes when there is any other conditional exemption from duty and exemption is claimed without fulfilling such conditions. Section 111 and 113 give specific instances of procedural illegality in import and export which would make goods liable for confiscation. Let us discuss some cases of improper export and import. These are illustrative cases. In Abdullah Barami versus Collector of Customs, the appellant had pleaded that teak wood planks being improperly exported were loaded on appellant's vessel without the knowledge of the appellant, and the exporter had abandoned the goods. But the court did not think that the contention of the appellant was reliable. In Commerce International versus Collector of Customs, goods were confiscated for declaration of false value of the goods. Valuation done by the Customs Department was upheld by the court. Another illustration is Hindustan Fashions Limited versus Collector of Customs. The issue in this case was misdeclaration of the goods. Power loom fabrics were declared as handloom fabric goods. Another example is Sharp Business Machines Private Limited versus Collector of Customs. In this case, finished plain paper copier were prohibited items for imports. Importers imported 100% components of these copiers in semi-knockdown or completely knocked down packs. This was considered as fraud by the court and penalty was imposed on the importers. In System Dynamic versus Collector of Customs, undeclared goods were included within declared goods. Importer had declared imports of color graphic terminal, but on an examination of consignment, it was found that in addition to the declared color graphic terminals, the consignment contained basic station and hard disk also. Plea of the importer that exporter had kept them in consignment by mistake was not considered reliable by the court, as it was found that importer was a habitual offender and had previously also misdeclared the goods and included misdeclared goods into declared goods. Now let us discuss substantive illegality. Substantive illegality can take place when import and export of an item is done against the express orders of the government. Central government has been entrusted with the power under the Customs Act, Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act and other specific legislations to regulate import and export of goods. Under Section 11 of the Customs Act, central government is empowered to prohibit imports totally or subject to conditions for any of the purposes specified in that provision. Section 3 of the Foreign Trade and Development Act provides similar powers to the central government. Section 5 of the Foreign Trade Act provides that the central government may from time to time formulate and announce by notification in the official gazette the export and import policy, and may also in the like manner amend that policy. In the case of Eurotex Industries and Exports Limited versus Union of India, an interesting issue arose. The contention of appellant in this case was that Union government has power to restrict or prohibit trade only under Section 3 of the Foreign Trade Act and not under Section 5 of the Act. Hence, any notification under Section 5 of the Act notifying a trade policy or amending a trade policy cannot have the effect of an order restricting or prohibiting import and export. You would know that the general rule of the law is that only rules and notifications of the government are actionable. Normally, policies are not actionable. According to the court, the power of the central government under Section 5 of the 1992 Act is wide enough to amend policy, and if the policy itself contains restrictions relating to import and export, there is no reason as to why the central government, in exercise of its powers under Section 5 of the Act, cannot enhance the restrictions or lift the restrictions imposed on import and export. The restriction or prohibition has to be notified in the official gazette and has to be prospective in application. Now, the different powers, the different types of substantive illegality which can be regulated by the central government. These illegalities can be with regard to largely three categories. One is importing and exporting prohibited items. Second is import and export exceeding the limit constraint imposed by the central government. And the third is import and export in contravention of any quality control order given by the central government. Let us discuss the first part first, that is when import and export done in contravention of the order of the government prohibiting import and export of any good. The government may prohibit import or export of any item. This prohibition can be for various reasons. It can be part of the economic policy to protect the domestic industry and different other reasons. For example, in Parisons Agrotech Private Limited versus Union of India, import of crude palm oils from Kerala port was prohibited. The reason for the prohibition was that Kerala was the largest producer of coconuts and coconut oil. Palm oil was a competing product made from crude palm oil. Price of crude palm oil was very low compared to coconut oil, which was adversely affecting 35 lakh farmers and their livelihoods. The Supreme Court upheld the notification and challenge to the order under Article 14 was dismissed. The government had the power under Section 3 of the Foreign Trade Act and the Foreign Trade Act to issue such notifications. Prohibition can be for protection of endangered species also. For example, in the case of Marine Products Exports Association versus Union of India, export of shark fins was prohibited. Prohibition was upheld by the Madras High Court. Prohibition can be for environmental and health reasons also. For example, in Sai Graphic Systems versus Commissioner of Customs, import of second-hand digital multifunction print and copying machine was prohibited under the Hazardous Waste Management Handling and Transboundary Movement Rules 2008. The court upheld the order, though it had to be applied prospectively. Second is restriction on the quantity of imports and exports. Quantity of goods imported and exported may be restricted. Quantity of import and export might be under regulation which can be violated by the importer or exporter. Central government has power to restrict imports and exports under Section 3 Clause 2 of the Foreign Trade Act as well as under Section 5 of the said Act. Section 2 Clause 33 of the Customs Act defines only prohibited good. There is no definition of restricted good under this Act, but Section 11 of the Customs Act empowers the central government to totally prohibit import or export of goods or subject to special conditions to be fulfilled before or after the clearance of the goods. In Sheikh Mohammed versus Collector of Customs, an interesting issue came up. The Supreme Court stated that any restriction on import and export is to an extent prohibition. According to the court, restriction is one type of prohibition. The third type of regulation which the central government takes is regulating the quality of goods, and any import and export in contravention of this is again an illegal trade. There might be violation of regulations relating to quality of goods. Restrictions on import and exports can also be for ensuring quality of the goods. Every country regulates the quality of products which are marketed in its territory. This is necessary for the protection of the interest of the consumers. For example, Section 25 of the Food Safety Act of 2006 prohibits import of contaminated goods. Another act is the Livestock Importation Act of 1898. It empowers the central government to prohibit importation of livestock on certain grounds. Section 3 and 3A of the act provide such powers to the central government. Such regulations, however, have to be compatible with India's international obligations. In this case, regard two WTO agreements, Agreement on Technical Barriers to Trade and Agreement on Sanitary and Phytosanitary Measures are important as they impose certain restrictions on the powers of the members to regulate quality of products and their marketing. For example, a case involving Section 3 and 3A of the Livestock Importation Act of India prohibited import of all wild birds and certain livestock products from all countries in view of a notifiable avian influenza. These were of two types and under both types imports of birds infected with both types of influenza were prohibited from being imported. This was challenged by the United States as contending that it was inconsistent with the Agreement on Sanitary and Phytosanitary Measures. Not exactly the provision, but the notification of the central government was inconsistent with the Agreement on Sanitary and Phytosanitary Measure. After the decision of the appellate body of the WTO, the government had to amend its notification which it had issued in July 2016. Similarly, quality of export is also checked. The Export Quality Control Inspection Act 1963 establishes Export Inspection Council and Director of Inspection and Quality Control for the purpose. Export Inspection Council and inspection agencies related to it provide certification and inspection services on regulatory and voluntary basis. Quality of exports is also regulated by agencies under different ministries. For example, processed food exports from India are regulated by Ministry of Food Processing Industries. Export inspection councils and inspection agencies work in collaboration with relevant ministries of the central government. Different penalties are provided for illegal trade. Section 138 of the Customs Act provides for presumption of culpable mental state in case of illegal import or export. Hence, mens rea cannot be pleaded as a defense. Under Section 111 of the Act, goods improperly imported are liable for confiscation. Section 112 provides penalties for improper imports. Penalty for importing prohibited goods is Rs 5,000 or value of goods whichever is greater. Penalty for invasion of duty is Rs 5,000 or whichever is greater. For wrong declaration of value, difference between the actual value and declared value of or rupees 5,000, whichever is greater. For illegal export, penalty is provided under 113 and 114 of the Customs Act. Customs Act also has a provision that is, in lieu of confiscation, the importer or exporter can also provide fine. Hence, at times the penalty is, instead of confiscating the goods, the Customs Department accepts fine in lieu of confiscating the goods, and then it releases the goods. So this is basically the law relating to illegal trade, that is illegal import and export of goods. In case of improper import and export, if the fine is, the loss to the state is more or less of an economic nature, in that case the provision relating to payment of fine in lieu of confiscation makes sense. But if the loss to the state is more like creating hazard for the consumers, in that case serious punishments are provided. But these punishments are not provided under the Customs Act. They are provided under the specific laws which regulate the quality of the goods which can be marketed in the territory of India. So this was in substance or in sum regulation of illegal trade which may happen into India or from India. And as we have discussed, this regulation is broadly of two natures. One is for that is procedural regulation and substantive regulation. Procedural regulations is for regulating the process of import and export, and substantive regulations are for regulating the quality of the goods and ensuring that no import and export takes place in contravention of the government's order. To conclude, it can be repeated or it can be said that trade, as we all know, is as old as human civilization. It is part of our social living. But as trade affects various aspects of social and political life, hence states regulate trade for various purposes. Violation of these regulations amounts to illegal trade. Penalties imposed for illegal trade are dependent on the purpose that is affected. If economic purpose is affected, mostly penalties in the nature of confiscation and fine. If security of state or health and welfare of citizens are affected, penalty may be higher. But as I said, most of such penalties are given in specific laws which regulate such aspects of an important human activity, that is international trade. Thank you.